So, welcome to day 6 of this, our final week of the 21-day program. Our theme today is changing the world, and we've been focusing on the discovery stage of mindfulness dialogue. So, let's begin our process by connecting as we do in keeping with the mindfulness dialogue process. Position yourself as you've become used to, what works for you, relaxed but alert. And take 3 deep breaths. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And breathe normally, and where you feel tension in your body, breathe into that place and breathe out the tension. Now try to let go of all the thoughts that are running around in your mind by paying attention to your breath as you breathe in and out deliberately, and find a gentle rhythm. In your mind, softly say the theme of today, changing the world. And use this, as I've suggested, as a mantra throughout the day. And continue with your mindfulness meditation by giving yourself permission to be present here, in this moment. When you find yourself distracted, simply return to your breath and the theme of today. I will hold this for a few moments, but if you wish to extend this, simply pause the recording and return when you're ready. Now gently return to this moment, and when you're ready, open your eyes. Feel the connection, the presence, your awareness. I have come to understand the stage of mindfulness dialogue discovery as participating deliberately and skillfully in the unfolding of life and meaning. The meaning aspect, I believe, is the particularly human contribution, born of mindful awareness that is fostered by connecting to life, and of deepening understanding, developed by a dialogue skill-based exploring. This meaning then informs our world in the sense of how we live and how we organize ourselves, and that includes the structures and institutions of our society. In the illusory world that imprisons us, we forget the seamless reality of interbeing and how we are intimately interconnected. I am because we are. And how the institutions of our societies are simply the product of our own collective meaning, our shared story. From the perspective of the prison we live in, our illusory world of separation and struggle, we see in a dualistic way that shapes everything. Thus, even our best efforts to create a better society, which we all want or profess to want, are themselves driven by the dualistic process of struggle between separate perspectives, where we divide ourselves into good and bad, right and wrong, winners and losers. The results, our laws and structures and institutions, are inevitably limited, because the foundational assumptions of separation and struggle are themselves limited. So if we want to change the world, which is the cry of every new generation, we have to begin at the fundamental level of changing ourselves, our perceptions and our understanding. To quote 4 prophets of our time, you say you want a revolution? Well, you know, we all want to change the world. You tell me it's the institution? Well, you know, you better free your mind instead. We all recognize the Beatles, I suppose. And what they're saying is, first we have to break out of the illusory prison of separation we've created for ourselves and learn to live in, or more accurately, as the real world of interconnection. Only then can we discover what this means for every aspect of our lives, both individual and collective. The Welsh poet D.H. Lawrence offers us a blueprint. This is what he writes. When we get out of the glass bottles of our ego, and when we escape like squirrels turning in the cages of our personality and get into the forests again, we shall shiver with cold and fright. Things will happen to us so that we don't know ourselves. Cool, unlying life will rush in, and passion will make our bodies taut with power. We shall stamp our feet with new power, and old things will fall down. We shall laugh, and institutions will curl up like burnt paper. Now, we've explored this great escape, as we might call it, as reconnecting with the real world and breaking out of the prison of perception where the illusory world keeps us. This escape, however, has its own special and often unexpected challenges. For when we step out of this prison, we also step out of a way of thinking and living that has given us identity, meaning, and security, however illusory. Freedom is not simply an intention, rather, it is a new way of seeing and being that implies leaving old ways of seeing and being that we've become used to. So, when we get into the forests again, when we fall into the infinite spaces, when we fall in love with the mysterious purposes of the universe, we shall shiver with cold and fright, because this will be new territory for us. In this transition place, as the poet says, things will happen to us so that we don't know ourselves. The forests, which is Lawrence's image of freedom, connotes the real, the new, that is uncontrived, pure. We speak of virgin forest, but also wild, uncontrollable, and childlike shades of the 60s moments when everything felt possible. Times when we could see the beauty. Everything is beautiful, we sang. We've all had our 60s moments, no matter how young or old we are, but we also remember that this escape was not enough. Perhaps because we didn't expect the initial challenges that came on the heels of this new freedom. Things will happen to us so that we don't know ourselves. After the initial liberation, there was the what next moment, which is not clear, for our identity and sense of meaning was tied up in the old system. We'd been entrained, enculturated, and identified by the system, the prison we had just left. Now we were like the people of Israel after Moses led them out of slavery into a desert they were not prepared for. They had broken out of the glass bottle of their enslaved selves. They had been taken out of the prisons of the slave work, but now they complained. What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone, let us serve the Egyptians? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert. They no longer knew who they were or how to live with this new freedom. The desert then became their place of learning how to be a new people and take on a new identity. So there is a kind of desert stage to freedom and to building a new world, a time of stripping away of the illusions we have internalized and identified with. Perhaps the challenges we are facing today that are stripping away the control we thought we had are this desert stage for us. But the good news is that if we can hold steady, something else will happen. As the poem says, cool, unlying life will rush in, and passion will make our bodies taut with power. What that feels like to me is that we have to get out of our own indoctrinated way and make way for life to flow through us. For a critical stage of true freedom in the language of mindfulness dialogue is listening for and moving with the river of life, participating in its emergent reality. With this life force comes the new passion, not simply the earlier passion driven by anger and frustration at the old ways, the old system, but the new power of awareness that fills not only our minds and hearts, but also our bodies, our individual bodies, but also our collective bodies. It is in this stage of new relationship with life that we will finally rid ourselves of the structures we have long railed against. The poem says, we shall stamp our feet with new power, and old things will fall down. We shall laugh, and institutions will curl up like burnt paper. Only then shall we be free, like children laughing with the excitement and joy of the great gift of living. We are talking here of a radical transformation, a new stage of our evolutionary journey. The only thing that will save us from what we can see is obvious and inexorable decline and even disappearance. Clearly you can feel that this is an enormous agenda, but you can also sense that it is not only possible, but inevitable, for it is the power of life itself that lives in us and through us. What we have to do is simply join with it. It is already happening. It has been happening in the many movements of life. new insights, amazing inventions, intentional communities at every level of society. For the times they are a-changing. They're always a-changing. Another line of this song adds a clear warning to those who would attempt to resist the inexorable process. Please get out of the new world if you can't lend a hand. Perhaps it's good after all that we don't fully appreciate what's involved in this cosmic process. That there is in fact a time for every stage, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. Perhaps now is the time to laugh. We shall laugh and institutions will curl up like burnt paper. So let's finish with a moment to hold all this together if we can. Position yourself as we've learned and take 3 deep breaths. Breathe normally and feel life flowing through you, in and out, beyond our control. Remember, my work is to remember how to participate, how to breathe with life. Feel, if you can, the movement of life, the breaking down as part of the process, the new initiatives as life giving birth to itself. Feel this movement in the world. Feel it in yourself. If you want to stay with this simple process, pause the recording and return when you're ready. But for now, return to this moment and let's look at some suggestions for application throughout the day and the days ahead. Perhaps the simplest suggestion is to begin to see things from the larger perspective. Breakdown is not disaster, but part of a larger process. So when you encounter such breakdowns in your own life and in the world, remind yourself that this is the way of life's unfolding. See the new initiatives that emerge as life giving birth to itself. Recognize the seamless web of this unfolding. If you can, notice the same impulses in yourself. The changes, the breakdowns, the failures even in your life are part of this process. And the new ideas, your hopes, your glimpses of joy are also part of this cosmic miracle. So let me give the last word to 2 English mystics. One, Lady Juliana of Norwich, was a 14th century mystic who famously said, "All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well." The same sentiment was echoed by later 20th century mystics, our friends the Beatles, who concluded their song, "You Say You Want a Revolution," with these words, "Don't you know it's going to be all right? Don't you know it's going to be all right?" I hope you can find this excitement in your life and world today, even in the face of painful, seemingly impossible challenges. As I say, blessings on this day. Bannacht ar an lá seo.